The woman pulled out $10 million to buy this delivery guy's life, and this money-obsessed man was stunned on the spot because the very same person who had been kicked to the ground that morning was now using cash to smash through the rules he had protected for 2 whole years. Before that, the boss was frowning at his phone, complaining that the delivery guy was taking too long. He even grumbled that people these days were way too unprofessional. None of them seemed to understand what their actual job was. Everyone was supposed to handle their own role properly. That was how everyone got to live large. After all, he was a professional who made a living with his own skills. Is that why you hate Korea so much? Is that how you ended up living like this? As he said that, the boss aimed his baseball bat at the man in front of him. But just as the tied-up man fell into complete despair, this delivery guy suddenly appeared and yanked him back from the edge of death. "Your delivery has arrived." Hearing that, the boss immediately cursed him for being late and picking a hell of a time to show up. But halfway through his rant, he suddenly realized something was wrong and asked who this delivery guy even was. His men were supposed to be guarding the entrance. So how did Lee Sang just walk straight in? Lee Sang simply crouched down and reached out to open the lid of the box. Then he pointed at each person in the room and started counting them one by one. After calculating the total number, he said there were 10 people, all armed, which meant a 5 times fee increase per person. And with the night surcharge included, they owed an extra $7,000. The moment he heard that, the boss exploded with rage, pointing his bat at Lee Sang and demanding to know what the hell he was here for. Lee Sang calmly told him that he was simply here to fight, and he could only get paid after beating them all down. He had no personal grudge against them. He was just here to finish a job. After hearing that, the boss was not scared at all. Instead, he let out a sneer while his underlings all pulled out their weapons. In the next instant, the men shouted and charged straight at Lee Sang. The next second, Lee Sang drove his fist straight into the face of the guy at the front. Then he twisted sideways and dodged the knife swinging in from his right. At the same time, he fired off an elbow strike and slammed it hard into the man's stomach, sending him flying. Lee Sang was busy. After dealing with them, he still had another order to rush to, so he told them to all come at him together and stop wasting his precious time. That was when the boss standing in the back finally realized what was happening. He stared at Lee Sang in horror, cursing as he asked who the hell he really was. But in the blink of an eye, Lee Sang had already wiped out every last underling and told the boss that trying to bribe him like this was against the rules. Seeing that, the boss trembled from head to toe and asked how much money Lee Sang had taken for this job. He even offered to pay triple the price if Lee Sang would spare his life, but Lee Sang did not even let him finish. He raised his hand and punched him straight in the face. Only then did he explain that privately raising the price like that violated the contract. Then Lee Sang crouched beside the boss and let out a quiet sigh. He pulled out his phone, aimed it at the boss lying on the floor, and prepared to take a photo as proof. Soon, he took a selfie with the boss in the frame. After confirming there were no issues, he sent the verification photo. Then he checked his orders and prepared to head to the next location. But just then, a voice suddenly caught Lee Sang's attention, so he turned to look. The man said he was from the restaurant and was about to pass out from being hung upside down. Then he anxiously snapped at Lee Sang, asking if he was deaf and telling him to hurry up and untie him. But Lee Sang checked the order in his hand and flatly told him that rescuing him was not included in the job. Hearing that, the man instantly panicked and shouted for him to wait, asking what he was supposed to do if Lee Sang just left. But Lee Sang ignored his begging, walked over, pulled out a new piece of cloth, and stuffed it right back into his mouth. Then Lee Sang handed him a business card. He told him that if he needed a request handled, he should go through the proper channels. As long as the job involved fighting, Lee Sang would take it, as long as the money was good. Just then, a new order notification suddenly popped up on Lee Sang's phone, showing that another delivery job had arrived. The rules of his work were simple. As long as he completed the order he accepted, he would receive the corresponding payment. Before he knew it, Lee Sang had already been doing this for 2 full years. With his solid fighting skills, he could make serious money even as a high school student. His name was Lee Sang, and he was 18 years old. As a student, he was already making far more than other people his age. His goal was to buy Tower Palace in Seoul before turning 20, but the price of that apartment had already climbed to $3 million. And even worse, the price went up again not long after, making Lee Sang feel like the whole thing was getting more ridiculous by the day. Just then, his phone suddenly showed a deposit notification. Over $1,000 had been transferred into his account right on time. But Lee Sang still was not satisfied with how fast he was making money. At this rate, even if he worked his whole life, he might never be able to afford that apartment. Other people said it was already impressive for a high school student to earn this much, but he was still nowhere near his goal. And lately, the number of requests he received kept dropping. The money coming in could not even keep up with the rising housing prices, leaving him miles away from his target. Thinking about that, Lee Sang fell silent and started wondering if he needed to find another way to make money. Just then, he noticed a girl collapsed on the ground ahead of him. Seeing that, Lee Sang could not help wondering if this was bullying. 3 thugs were blocking the girl's path. The fat guy leading them smirked and said he had only greeted her, so why did she go flying like that? But the girl on the ground only stared coldly at the fat guy in front of her. When the fat guy saw that look in her eyes, his smile grew even more arrogant. He sneered, asking why she was still glaring so fiercely after taking a beating. The next second, the fat guy raised his foot and kicked the girl in the shoulder. You should know your place by now. Your father is in debt, your family has nothing left, and you're still acting so high and mighty? Then the fat guy shamelessly demanded that she become his girlfriend. But even after hearing that, the girl still stared him down. But just then, a voice suddenly made all of them freeze. Lee Song told them to apologize to the girl. The fat guy clearly never expected someone to actually stick his nose into their business. At that moment, the underling beside him instantly went pale. He quickly grabbed the fat guy and told him he absolutely could not mess with Lee Sang. The fat guy looked confused and asked what he was so scared of. The underling hurriedly explained that since he was a transfer student, he might not know, but even the upperclassmen at school did not dare mess with this guy. He told him to just apologize and let it go. But after hearing that, the fat guy was not scared at all. Instead, his face darkened. Then he swaggered toward Lee Sang. He mocked Lee Sang, asking if he was the girl's boyfriend and why he had to apologize. Was that an order? He asked if this little punk had a death wish, but what the fat guy never expected was that the same underling who had just tried to stop him suddenly picked up a stick and slammed it hard into the back of his head. Then they started walking away while apologizing to Lee Sang on the fat guy's behalf, begging him not to hold it against them. Seeing that, Lee Sang said he told them to apologize to the girl, not to him. As he said that, Lee Song handed the girl a business card and told her to contact him if she ever needed help. As long as she paid, he could take care of anyone for her. And if she was short on money, he could even give her a 2% discount. Only after Lee Sang disappeared at the end of the hallway did the girl finally pick up the business card. The card was completely plain, with only the words "Delivery Rider Lee Sang" written on it. There was no extra contact information or anything else, leaving her completely at a loss. Soon, school was over. Lee Sang's phone screen showed that it was already 6:03 p.m., so he scrolled through the order page on his phone. He could not help complaining that orders had been hard to get lately. Getting 2 orders yesterday felt like a stroke of luck. Making money really was way too difficult. There were so many buildings in the world, yet he did not even have a decent home of his own. But just then, Lee Sang's phone suddenly rang. It was a new order notification from Delivery Heaven. A new order popped up on the screen, and the estimated payment was actually $10,000. The delivery location was in Gangnam, but Lee Sang still was not sure of the exact address, so he could only head there first and figure it out along the way. To his surprise, the location shown on the screen was Gangnam Tower, and the building was ridiculously tall. Looking up from the bottom, Lee Sang could not even see the top. After all, he had always wondered what the inside of a place like this looked like. This time, he finally had a chance to see it for himself. Thinking that, Lee Sang quickly changed into his delivery uniform. Now, it was time to go make money. A moment later, Lee Sang stood in front of room 8001. Looking at the penthouse mansion in front of him, he could not help wondering what kind of grudge someone living in a place like this could possibly have. So he pushed open the door and habitually called out, "Your delivery has arrived." When no one answered, Lee Sang raised his phone and used it to light up the room. Then he called out again. But after searching around, he still could not find a single person. Lee Sang then continued walking deeper into the living room. But after searching for a while, he still found nothing new. So he decided to take a short break. But at that exact moment, 2 men wearing masks silently emerged from the darkness behind him. One of them was already rushing at him with a knife, but in Lee Sang's eyes, the swing was laughably slow. Lee Sang simply turned to the side and drove a punch straight into the man's face. What the hell was going on here? The people living in a place like this definitely should not have been guys like them. And with this many people involved, they should have been listed in advance. Looks like he would have to recalculate the extra fees, or there was a real chance he would get cheated out of his delivery pay. The moment he said that, one of the masked men realized that although Lee Sang was not the target, he was clearly no ordinary fighter. So he planned to wait for an opening in the middle of the fight and have everyone rush him at once. But before he could even finish speaking, Lee Sang had already punched one of the charging attackers and sent him flying. At the same time, he kept fighting while quietly counting heads. Seeing this, one of the masked men tried to seize the opportunity. He suddenly grabbed an axe and swung it hard at Lee Sang from behind. But Lee Sang did not even bother giving him a second glance. He just punched him once and sent him flying. Right then, another man suddenly grabbed Lee Sang's wrist from behind. The man sneered and said that even if Lee Sang was quick, his type could be crushed with raw strength. A weight difference like this was a gap he could never overcome. But to the man's surprise, Lee Sang suddenly reversed the grip and caught his wrist instead. Then he twisted it hard. At the same time, he told him that a man grabbing another man from behind was disgusting. With that, Lee Sang hurled him straight into the nearby door. That made 7 in total. Was that really the end of it? But just then, Lee Sang suddenly sensed one more presence behind him. Without the slightest hesitation, he threw a punch straight at the person's face. But the moment he saw who it was, he froze on the spot. The person standing in front of him was the same girl from the earlier bullying incident at school. Seeing her there, Lee Sang could not help wondering why she had shown up in a place like this. Then the girl raised her phone and pointed the screen at him. It clearly showed an order interface, and she calmly explained that all of these people had come for her. Active professional assassins were obviously not easy to deal with, yet Lee Sang had taken them all down without holding back. That really was impressive. Hearing that, Lee Sang turned toward her, clearly confused by what she was saying. Meanwhile, her expression remained so calm that it was impossible to read. At the same time, she said she wanted Lee Sang to work with her. Just as he could see, the situation around her was dangerous. So she wanted to formally hire his strength, and the job itself would not be much different from the work he had already been doing. Damn, what the hell was this situation? Lee Sang flatly told her that he never took exclusive contracts. Client or not, this was against his operating policy. Besides, if she was being targeted, then what was that pig from earlier about? And more importantly, the thing he cared about most right now was how exactly she planned to settle the delivery fee. The girl calmly replied that cash was fine too, although these days, who even paid in cash anymore? Then she added that, considering the number of people involved, she was willing to pay extra. But the moment she finished speaking, a stack of dollars dropped right at Lee Sang's feet. Then more stacks of cash started pouring out of her backpack, piling up higher and higher. Seeing that, Lee Sang stared at the cash all over the floor and could not help swallowing hard. The girl calmly said that operating policies like that really did not matter. She needed Lee Sang's strength, and Lee Sang needed her money. As long as both sides understood the relationship clearly, that should be enough. Hearing that, Lee Sang was suddenly at a loss for words because he had never seen that much money in his life, and this was a full $100,000 in cash. Seeing his reaction, the girl softly said that was more like it. His eyes finally looked a little friendlier now. Then she asked him one final question. Was he going to work with her or not? And if so, did he have any other conditions? But Lee Sang felt there had to be something wrong with the money. In his eyes, Xianhua's acting was pretty convincing, and she had almost fooled him just now. So he grabbed the payment he had already earned. Then he told Xianhua that her money had to be fake. Bills like this could be checked by smell and texture. Did she really think he was that easy to fool? Besides, he clearly remembered what that fat guy had said earlier. Her family had already gone bankrupt, so there was no way she could have this much money. Hearing that, Sanhua asked if he would regret it. Lee Sang told her that since she was not injured, he would not charge her any extra fees this time, and if they ran into each other at school, she should not pretend to know him. But now, Lee Sang finally realized that the pile of money at Xianhua's feet might have been completely real. At that moment, he was desperately struggling over whether he should go back and find her. That was $100,000. He might never get another chance in his life to earn that much money. Just then, Lee Sang's phone suddenly rang with a notification. He saw that the cryptocurrency he had bought a few days ago had already multiplied several times over, and the numbers were still changing non-stop. This was not just an ordinary price jump. In this era, investing was everything. So Lee Sang did not hesitate and went all in. But the very next second, the chart suddenly crashed by 99%, making him feel like the entire world had gone dark. At the same time, a couple on the street suddenly heard a loud bang. They saw that Lee Sang had just smashed an ATM. At that moment, his mind went completely blank. He had no idea how he was supposed to keep living after this. After that, Lee Sang was taken to an interrogation room at the police station. The officer asked what exactly he thought he was doing. Then he told Lee Sang that he had 1 week to come up with the full compensation. At that moment, Lee Sang looked like his soul had been completely drained. So-called luck was nothing but a cruel joke to him. Time quickly moved to the next day. Everything at school looked normal, but Lee Sang was no longer the same person he had been yesterday. After school, he happened to see Xianhua and asked if she could reconsider what happened yesterday. But just then, the fat guy suddenly showed up at the school gate with a group of people and huffed arrogantly at Lee Sang. He had come today specifically to cause trouble for Lee Sang. He said that yesterday, he only let Lee Sang go because his useless underlings had forced him into that situation, but this time was different. He had brought only the strongest fighters with him. However, Lee Sang simply told him that elites were exactly the kind of people he beat up. As he said that, he flipped the fat guy straight onto the ground. The fat guy was knocked out cold on the spot. Seeing this, one of the fat guy's underlings immediately reached for Lee Sang's shoulder, but Lee Sang casually punched him once and put him straight to sleep like a baby. Then, while beating up the rest of them, Lee Sang told Xianhua that he should not have spoken so absolutely back then. But this was a huge amount of money, so being cautious about something like that was the right thing to do. Now, he could accept only half of Xianhua's original offer. What did she think? Since Lee Sang currently needed emergency funds, if she did not mind, they could sign the contract right away. But after hearing that, Sanhua's eyes showed no extra emotion at all. Then she immediately turned her head away. Lee Sang stood there in pure embarrassment, but he had no intention of giving up. After all, work was work, and she needed his strength, right? Hearing that, Sanhua stopped walking. She slightly turned her face and told Lee Sang that his tone was as dry as someone talking about the weather. And right now, his attitude was not the attitude of someone asking for a favor. Before this, Lee Sang had been far too rude. Since they were clearly in a client and contractor relationship, he needed to show her proper respect. Hearing that, Lee Sang instantly felt like he was losing his mind, because this was exactly the kind of thing he was worst at dealing with. At that moment, Sanhua suddenly turned her gaze toward the fat guy beside them. Seo Min-taek from Class 1 of the second year. Right now, you deserve a harsher punishment than anyone. Meanwhile, at a golf course, as a golf ball flew high into the sky, everyone around the man praised his shot. Hearing that, the man asked his subordinates if he looked cool in their eyes right now. Then he called them a bunch of worthless trash. The man speaking was So Young-gang, the CEO of a major conglomerate. Just then, his phone suddenly vibrated with an incoming call, and the person calling was none other than his precious son, So Min-taek. What is it? My cutest and most reliable son in the world. Do you need some spending money? However, the fat guy on the other end had completely broken down because the miserable state he was in right now was all Sanhua's doing. Sanhua? Is she the daughter of that Jung Kyung Chol you're looking for? That girl hired someone to beat me up and smash my head into the ground. The photos of me being humiliated have already been posted in the school group chat. The whole school is laughing at me now. How am I supposed to go back? Hearing that, Seo Young-gang told his son that he would handle everything, so there was no need to worry. Jung Kyung Cheol's daughter had actually busted his son's head open. So how exactly were these people doing their jobs? They could not even handle one little brat. They were completely useless. The next second, he smashed a golf ball straight into the manager's face. Golf looked so easy, but it turned out to be harder than he expected. He figured he should just hit people directly instead. That was simpler and much more fun. The newcomer was another delivery rider named Bae Min-jun. That's right, Min-jun. I invited you here personally because of this matter. So from here on, I'll leave it to you. If you handle this cleanly, I'll give you an extra reward. Seeing this, Bae Min-jun suddenly burst into laughter. Who still takes tiny orders like this nowadays? All delivery riders like me take jobs through delivery heaven. You people seriously didn't know that? But just then, one of So Young-gang's men saw Bae Min-jun being so disrespectful to his boss and placed a hand on his shoulder. Watch your mouth, delivery punk. But before he could even finish speaking, Bae Min-jun knocked him out cold. That guy was a manager, right? If even the manager is this useless, no wonder you people handle work like garbage. Hearing that, So Young-gang admitted that their way of handling things had indeed been terrible. From now on, I'll leave this matter entirely to you. I hope you can resolve it as soon as possible. According to our information, the target has hired a full-time delivery rider, so keep that in mind. No problem. I'll handle it based on my own judgment. At that moment, Lee Sang held his phone and stared at the notification showing that the $50,000 delivery fee had arrived. The weight on his chest finally lifted. But as he kept completing deliveries, Sanhua was about to hand him an order that might last longer than his own life. After that, Sanhua required all of Lee Sang's future delivery fees to be settled through a contract. During their partnership, he was not allowed to take any other private jobs. He could only handle her orders. And no matter what happened, Lee Sang had to stay by her side at all times. Could he swear to do that? Hearing that, Lee Sang scratched the back of his head, a little stunned. Stay by her side at all times? He never expected her to say something that embarrassing. Then Lee Sang raised his hand and told her he could swear to it. Seeing that, Sanhua simply stared at him in silence. Then she announced that from that moment on, Lee Sang was officially her contracted exclusive delivery rider. Hearing this, Lee Sang finally felt relieved. He could now cover the compensation for damaging the ATM. But then he immediately started worrying about this month's rent and food expenses, so he carefully asked when she planned to place the next order. It did not have to be another massive $50,000 job. Even a small delivery order would be fine. But when Lee Sang looked up, he saw Sanhua running in the opposite direction from school. He quickly called out and asked where she was going, since the school was clearly the other way. Hearing that, Sanhua looked back and told him they were going to work. Work right now? Was she asking him to skip school? He still needed his perfect attendance award, but Sanhua ignored him and instead asked where he had parked his motorcycle. And just like that, Lee Sang got on his motorcycle and took her to the target location. A short while later, they arrived at a dimly lit room. Inside, a blonde-haired boss was sitting in a chair, looking extremely impatient. He questioned the fat guy beside him, who was eating a sausage, asking why the girls he brought all looked like that. The fat guy defended himself, saying he had clearly told them properly that everyone came here willingly. There was no need for them to freeze up like pigs headed for the slaughter. So everyone should just relax. Then the blonde-haired boss suddenly sat up straight and viciously threatened the girls, saying this was his final warning. If they kept refusing to listen, he would have no choice but to get rough. But right then, Lee Sang's voice suddenly came from the doorway. Standing at the entrance, he called out, "Delivery." Then Lee Sang held up the order in his hand to confirm the target's identity, and asked if he was Song Jong-soo from class 7 of the 3rd year. Hearing that, the blonde guy froze for a moment because he was pretty sure he had never ordered a delivery. But before he could finish speaking, Lee Sang had already rushed straight toward him. The next second, Lee Sang punched him in the face and sent him flying far across the room. Then Lee Sang lowered his fist and confirmed that the target was indeed him. After that, Seonhwa walked in through the doorway and asked whether he had completed the task according to the order. Hearing that, Lee Sang immediately gave her a thumbs up and told her the delivery had been completed quickly and accurately. Then he grabbed the blonde guy's head and pressed it in front of the phone for facial recognition to verify the order. However, the phone screen showed that facial recognition had failed and said the face information needed to be reset. Seeing that, Seonhwa let out a soft sigh. The reason the facial recognition failed was simple. First, Lee Sang had beaten his face to a pulp. That was exactly why she had told him earlier to avoid hitting the face whenever possible. Meanwhile, the two underlings beside them hid in the corner, whispering about whether they should sneak away while no one was paying attention. But just then, Lee Sang and Seonhwa turned to look at them at the same time. Then Seonhwa asked them which schools those girls had been taken from and told them to answer honestly. After that, Seonhwa turned to warn Lee Sang that he was not allowed to act without her permission. With that, she turned and started walking out. Lee Sang asked in confusion where she was going. Hearing that, Seonhwa looked back and told him there were still plenty of places they needed to handle. Next, they arrived at the gates of another high school. Inside the classroom, a pink-haired thug was sitting in a chair. But when he saw Lee Sang barge in, he arrogantly demanded to know who he was, saying it was not even lunchtime yet. So what delivery was he talking about? But the moment he finished speaking, Lee Sang struck him in the neck with a knife hand chop. Jung Sung-won, 3rd year high school student. Target confirmed. Then Lee Sang grabbed at his head and took a verification photo with Seonhwa. Meanwhile, a man in the hallway saw what Lee Sang did and immediately turned around, bolting straight toward the office. In the blink of an eye, he reached the office door. Then he called for help, saying some lunatic had suddenly broken into the classroom and started beating people up. But the next second, Lee Sang covered his mouth with one hand, stopping him from making another sound. Then Lee Sang greeted the teachers inside and said they were just little reporters investigating school violence, and they only needed to ask a few questions. At the same time, Seonhwa raised her phone and took the verification photo. After the delivery targeting the delinquent student Lim Gang-ju was officially completed, they went to another high school and took down a delinquent boss named Kim Gwang-jae, taking another verification photo to complete the order. After that, they rushed through 2 more high schools and completed 2 more orders. Then Seonhwa told Lee Sang that once they went to the final location, all of today's orders would be finished. But the last place would be the hardest one today, so he absolutely could not let his guard down. But after hearing that, Lee Sang asked whether they were actually a team or not. Hearing that, Seonhwa stayed silent for a few seconds, then asked what he was trying to say. So Lee Sang told her that although he was paid to do what she asked, they were still in a contracted partnership. But right now, they were not sharing any information at all. So at the very least, he thought they should share the target of the operation. Seonhwa then clearly told him that they were neither a team nor partners. They were simply a client and a delivery rider, bound purely by money. The contract could be torn up at any time, so it was only natural that she had no extra information to tell Lee Sang. Still, the one thing she could tell him was that the reason she was collecting those delinquent students' phones was because they contained the contact information of the person she was looking for, and her final goal was to send Lee Sang to that person's side. But just then, a truck suddenly came crashing toward them. At the last possible second, Lee Sang pulled Seonhwa tightly into his arms to protect her. Then he immediately asked if she was hurt, but Seonhwa did not answer. Instead, she looked around with caution. As for Lee Sang, he completely broke down because his motorcycle had just been smashed beyond repair, and he still had 28 months of payments left on it. Meanwhile, inside the truck that had caused the crash, the blonde guy Lee Sang had dealt with earlier was shouting excitedly that those two were the ones who stole his phone. "You took my money? So why can't you handle 2 students? Do you not want to get paid? It's been a while since I took a job like this, so my hands are itching. This place is remote, and there aren't many people around. Perfect for getting things done." Then the truck driver told the blonde guy that he would deal with them quickly, pack up the goods, and deliver them to him. At the same time, Seonhwa looked down at her phone with the shattered screen. She realized it was completely unusable now. Then her eyes shifted toward the truck. The words, "Go do delivery," were printed on the side. She instantly realized that the other side had hit them on purpose, and even the truck itself was a disguise. Then Seonhwa warned Lee Sang to be extremely careful. The other guy was not an ordinary delivery worker, so he needed to stay on high alert and approach slowly. After that, Lee Sang walked to the back of the truck. He called out to the driver inside and told him to pay for his motorcycle right now, unless he wanted to get beaten up. But the driver completely ignored his demand and just kept rummaging through the cargo. The next second, he pulled a long box out from the pile of goods, lifted it onto his shoulder, and said it had been a while since he had warmed up, so Lee Sang would be perfect practice. Hearing that, Lee Sang was furious. He told the driver that his motorcycle was a one-of-a-kind custom model, and he had not even ridden it for 2 months, so the driver had to pay for the damage. The moment he finished speaking, the driver raised a long blade and took his stance. In an instant, the entire roof of the truck was sliced in half. Then the truck driver sneered, telling Lee Sang he was lucky. If his hands had not been rusty from not using a blade for so long, that last slash would have already killed him. Lee Sang looked down at his stomach. Sure enough, the blade had left a cut there. The driver said he understood hot-blooded young people perfectly. It was normal to get angry after being cut. Kids that age were all like that, and he had seen plenty of useless brats who had no idea how weak they really were. Hearing that, Lee Sang told the truck driver to stop running his mouth and try slashing again, because he had not fought someone with a weapon in a long time either. He did not perform well just now, but this time, he would properly entertain him, so the driver could come at him all he wanted. The next moment, the truck driver swung his blade with terrifying speed, but to his surprise, just as the blade was about to hit him, Lee Sang shattered it with a single punch. Then Lee Sang told him to try another weapon, because no matter what weapon he used, Lee Sang would still beat him. The driver then gripped the handle of his broken blade, as if he had found something interesting. In his eyes, the Lee Sang standing in front of him was just like his younger self, charging forward on nothing but youthful arrogance, reckless and unafraid of death. Looking back now, even he had no idea how he had survived back then. The next moment, as the broken blade hit the ground, the driver turned his head and shouted at the blonde guy hiding inside the truck, telling him to hurry over and help. But when he saw the blonde guy panicking, he instantly felt that the guy did not seem like a man at all. The blonde guy exploded in anger, saying he was the one paying, so why should he listen to the driver? This was ridiculous. If the driver wanted to order him around, then he should give him a refund. But the moment he finished speaking, the truck driver struck him. The driver casually asked him, "Kid, have you ever worked a part-time job before?" The blonde guy stammered that he had not, then said he had grown up spoiled and had never done anything like that. Hearing that, the truck driver could not help complaining that parents these days spoiled their kids too much. A young man with perfectly healthy arms and legs had never even worked a part-time job and could not handle the slightest hardship. Did he even know what warehouse loading work was? The blonde guy trembled in fear and quickly said he knew. Meanwhile, Manhwa suddenly called Lee Sang's name. Then she reminded him that the timer was running, so he should not let useless pride delay the job. He had to act professionally. Right now, fighting the truck driver barehanded put him at a huge disadvantage, so he should retreat first and think of another way. But Lee Sang cut her off immediately. Fighting was his territory, and he did not need Manhwa teaching him how to do his job. At the same time, a voice suddenly rang out, scolding Lee Sang for not knowing how to talk to a girl. Right after that, a spiked flail came smashing toward Lee Sang. The next second, Lee Sang did not hesitate at all and met it head-on with his fist. But when the truck driver pulled the chain of the flail back, he found Lee Sang's fist mark stamped into it. Now he knew Lee Sang had not been bluffing when he said he would smash every weapon he had. The truck driver also said he admired Lee Sang's attitude. Risking everything to protect a client suited his taste perfectly. What the hell were his fists made of? How could they shatter his weapons? Then he told the blonde guy to move faster and keep throwing weapons. They absolutely could not lose the rhythm. Hearing that, the blonde guy was panting from exhaustion and quietly complained that he had no technique for this kind of work. If the driver thought it was so easy, he should do it himself. But the truck driver did not buy that at all. He turned his face slightly and coldly warned the blonde guy. If he broke the rhythm again, the next weapon might not land where he expected. Young people these days had no stamina at all. At that moment, as the truck driver pierced through the delivery box the blonde guy threw over, more delivery boxes were tossed into the air, one after another. And inside one of the boxes he knocked open, there was actually an axe. But Lee Sang simply raised his fist and shattered the flying axe with a single punch. The muscular truck driver stabbed his weapon into the second box, clearly speeding up the pace of his attacks. But the moment his weapons touched Lee Sang's fist, they still had no effect at all, because Lee Sang did not take his attacks seriously. Still, from the truck driver's perspective, even though Lee Sang had already broken many of his weapons, he still had plenty more, and one of them would definitely take Lee Sang down. But as he watched his weapons keep getting shattered by Lee Sang, at that moment, the truck driver decided to attack with multiple weapons at the same time. But every blade that flew toward Lee Sang was knocked away by him, and not a single one could even scratch him. Then the truck driver kicked his foot toward a delivery box. He had never expected Lee Sang to be capable of this much, so he planned to first draw all of Lee Sang's attention with a dense barrage of attacks. Then he would use a long pole to launch the heaviest object inside the delivery boxes and defeat Lee Sang in one strike. The next moment, a 1,000-pound object came flying toward Lee Sang at terrifying speed, but Lee Sang did exactly what he said he would. Instead of dodging, he met it head-on with his fist. As a result, the long pole in the truck driver's hands snapped from the recoil, and the heavy object he had just swung at Lee Sang was sent flying right back. Seeing this, the truck driver could not help widening his eyes. Were this kid's fists made of steel? Or were his gloves made of steel? Meanwhile, inside the truck's cargo area, the blonde guy had collapsed from exhaustion and said he had already thrown every weapon they had. At that moment, Lee Sang raised his hand and touched his helmet. Then he asked the truck driver how he planned to pay for the damage to both his helmet and his motorcycle. Hearing that, the truck driver could not help remembering something he had heard when he first entered this line of work. In this business, reckless people always died the fastest. 30 years ago, when Kim Tae-wook was still 22, he told the teammates beside him to step back, saying he could handle it alone. His teammates told him to stop messing around and follow the plan. If he kept acting on his own, he was really going to get himself killed. The man standing alone on the other side was a top-tier assassin, specially hired by a major conglomerate. But Kim Tae-wook did not take that seriously at all. He said the guy was just some half-baked amateur who got the job through connections and had never seen a real fight to the death. Besides, he always believed that reckless people made mistakes, but that saying did not apply to him. But when he rushed in, he discovered that all of his teammates had already been taken down. Then the man in front of him told him that recklessness was only for people who lacked skill. The man said he completely agreed with that. Ever since he was young, the elders around him had also told him not to be reckless, warning that he would get himself killed one day. But he could never understand how those people could say something like that with such straight faces, because now all those elders who kept repeating that line were already dead, and some of them had even been killed by his own hands. The reason he spared Kim Tae-wook that day was because he had finally met someone with the same way of doing things. So why not lie freely with that recklessness together and prove that their way of life was right? From that day on, Kim Tae-wook no longer believed in recklessness, and he completely abandoned his old style of charging forward barehanded. After that, he lived in endless fear, terrified that one day he would run into that man again. But after struggling for 30 years and doing everything he could to escape that fear, he never expected to meet someone in a place like this who fought exactly like that man. At that moment, only one thought remained in Kim Tae-wook's mind. He had to run. If he kept fighting Lee Sang, that would be pure recklessness, because Lee Sang's strength was already beyond what he could handle. But the next second, he still did not turn and run. Instead, he clenched his fists and took a fighting stance. Was he really going to spend his entire life hiding like this? Was he going to live like a rat forever? If he turned and ran now, he would never be able to hold his head up again. You little brat. Back in my prime, my fists were just as strong as yours. Seeing that, Lee Sang looked at him and laughed. Then he gave him a thumbs up and said that was the first thing the old man had done today that actually looked good to him. The next moment, Kim Tae-wook charged at Lee Sang with his bare fists, but Lee Sang reacted even faster and punched him straight in the face. Immediately after that, Kim Tae-wook was sent flying backward. After the punch, Lee Sang told him to count that as payment for the motorcycle. Since he was about to make tens of thousands of dollars anyway, he would let him off this time. But just then, Lee Sang suddenly heard the blonde guy cursing, so he turned toward the sound. The blonde guy had crawled out of the cargo area at some point and was now choking Seon-hwa from behind with his arm. He threatened Lee Sang not to move, saying he would slit her throat if he took even one step. Then he told Lee Sang to hand over the phone immediately, or he would do it. But the next second, Seon-hwa suddenly grabbed the blonde guy's wrist and drove an elbow into his stomach. Then she stomped hard on his ankle. Just like that, Seon-hwa executed the moves flawlessly. Then she looked down at the blonde guy on the ground and asked if he really thought she could not take care of herself during this kind of work. Or did he think she had not prepared any self-defense methods? In a one-on-one fight, taking down a thug like him was still easy for her. At that moment, after watching Seon-hwa deal with the blonde guy, Lee Sang saw her in a new light. He had thought she was in trouble, but her form was surprisingly solid. Had she trained before? Back at school, she probably could have handled those guys on her own. In this line of work, unexpected things were bound to happen. After all, no one knew when a delivery rider would show up, so it was not exactly the kind of thing they could blame someone for. They should clear up what happened this time before continuing their partnership. Lee Sang's job was to fight, not to protect property, so the responsibilities needed to be clearly divided, right? But just then, Seon-hwa did not respond. Instead, she grabbed his hand. "Is your hand okay?" Seeing this, Lee Sang felt like everything had happened way too suddenly. He said he was fine. But wait, was she actually worried about him? But the moment he said that, Seon-hwa hit him with a cold reality check. Are your hands made of steel or diamond? If something went wrong during that fight, how are you supposed to work in the future? You were only lucky this time. Even if fighting is your job, I'm the one placing the orders. Stop doing unprofessional things. How many times do I have to say it before you understand? Answer me. How many times do I have to say it? This is your final warning. If you ever do something this stupid again, I'm canceling the order. Do you understand? But right then, both of them heard laughter from the side. Ah, youth really is nice. Don't be so harsh on your boyfriend. This guy has every right to act cool, and I should thank you too. You reignited the delivery spirit I had long forgotten. From now on, I'm going to live a life I won't be ashamed of anymore. So, as thanks, I can help you with one thing. You really are strong. But sometimes experience from an elder is useful too. Hearing Kim Tae-wook's words, Lee Sang scoffed, because in his current state, the man did not seem useful to them at all. Even worse, Lee Sang's motorcycle was already wrecked. So how were they supposed to get to the next destination? But Kim Tae-wook warned them not to rush off, or both of them would die. He did not know what they were trying to do, but both of their names were already on the priority delivery list. Hearing that, Lee Sang asked in confusion what priority delivery was. As for Seonhwa, the situation was moving far faster than she had expected. They needed to come up with a new plan, but there was no time. Lee Sang was completely lost and asked what the two of them were even talking about. What exactly was priority delivery? Kim Tae-wook asked if he was really a delivery rider, then called him an idiot. Priority delivery was different from regular one-on-one orders. Every delivery rider could accept the same job, and whoever completed it first would receive the delivery fee. Now that they were registered on the priority delivery list, it meant they had become a shared target for every delivery rider. In other words, from now on, someone would be hunting them around the clock. After hearing that, Lee Sang fell silent for a moment. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized this was actually amazing. From now on, he would not have to look for people to fight. They would come straight to him, and he could even make money from it. Lee Sang felt like choosing this line of work had been the right call. Boss Seonhwa, thank you for giving me this opportunity. But I hope the next opponent is stronger. Not some small fry like this guy. But the moment he said that, Kim Tae-wook burst into laughter. You lunatic. I'm starting to like you more and more. Now I really want to work with you too. Keep dreaming. You are not becoming our partner. Could you stop being so shameless and getting in our way? I'm a professional delivery rider. I work for money, so I definitely won't interfere with you. Hearing that, Seonhwa had no intention of letting him become her partner, but if he was willing to become her subordinate, then she could allow him to join. The moment she said that, the older Kim Tae-wook completely threw his dignity out the window. If I were a little younger, I definitely wouldn't hide my crush on you. Give me any order you want. But after hearing their conversation, Lee Sang felt completely creeped out. Were these two even normal people? Then Seonhwa said there was only one place left, and they were already on the priority delivery list, so they had no time to waste. Although all those phones were broken now, it was not like there was no other way. They could just use that guy as a replacement. She would make him reveal all the records and stored information from those phones. Not long after, the group returned to school. Lee Sang then asked Seonhwa if this was the final order. She said yes. Just like she had said before, this would be the hardest task of the day. But wasn't this their own school? Then why did they not just come here from the start? At least Lee Sang could have kept his perfect attendance. If that had worked, Seonhwa would have done it already. There was a reason she had saved this place for last. And if people were still inside the school, going in would only cause trouble for everyone. Just then, Kim Tae-wook told Seonhwa that the thing she asked him to do was finished. That guy definitely would not be able to escape. So what else did she need him to do? Seonhwa said she had not decided yet, but if Kim Tae-wook had nothing to do, he could act as her human shield whenever danger appeared. Little lady, you really don't show any respect to your elders. That's exactly my type. But in this day and age, a 30-year age gap isn't that much. You can just call me Oppa. But while they were joking around, Lee Sang caught the smell of blood. It seems something had already happened here before they arrived. Hearing that, Seonhwa said that before they came in, there had been a delivery motorcycle parked near the school gate. Its destination was the student council room on the 5th floor. The window of that room was always covered by curtains. But just now, the window had been opened and the lights were on. So either someone had already made the first move, or the target was the two of them. But just as Seonhwa finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. Maybe it's both. Why did you come so late? I waited so long that I got bored. So I took care of everyone in the student council. Does this school not even have self-study? Hearing that, Kim Tae-wook immediately looked displeased. Do you know that killing outside of an order is a serious violation of industry rules? It's trash like you that makes this whole business rotten. Just then, Bae Min-jun appeared in front of Kim Tae-wook in an instant. He moved so fast that Kim Tae-wook had no time to react at all. By the time Kim Tae-wook looked down at his own finger, he realized it had already been cut off. Who do you think you're lecturing? The thing I hate most is people pointing their fingers at me. I'm no longer interested in hunting small fry, so get out of my way. At first, I wondered who would go out of their way to call me just to catch a high school girl. But the moment I saw the target photo they sent me, do you have any idea how excited I was? Because aside from the target, someone else caught my attention. And that person was Lee Sang. Long time no see, my dear brother. I missed you so much. And the moment Bae Min-jun said Lee Sang's name, Seonhwa asked Lee Sang if the man was his friend, clearly unable to understand their relationship. On top of that, none of the information she had on Lee Sang mentioned anything about this, so she demanded to know why. But just as Lee Sang was about to explain, Bae Min-jun suddenly attacked Seonhwa without any warning. However, Lee Sang did not give him the chance and instantly grabbed Bae Min-jun's wrist. The muscular Bae Min-jun paused for a moment. Then he looked at Lee Sang in confusion and asked, "You take bodyguard jobs now? Don't tell me she's your girlfriend." Hearing that, Lee Sang immediately got angry. "Idiot. I only get paid if I protect her. Besides, your target has always been me anyway. Leave her out of this. It's time we settled our score." After hearing Lee Sang's words, the smile on Bae Min-jun's face slowly faded, but his hands did not stop. Instead, he became even more aggressive and attacked in Seonhwa's direction again. This time, Lee Sang was already prepared and blocked 2 of his attacks with his hands. At the same time, he kicked toward Bae Min-jun's lower leg, but Bae Min-jun's movements were absurdly fast, and his fingertips still grazed Seonhwa's neck. In an instant, a thin line of blood appeared. Lee Sang pulled Seonhwa tighter behind him and gritted his teeth as he said, "Don't forget the promise we made." But Bae Min-jun clearly did not believe a word of it. "Have you forgotten what kind of people we are? Those people you once said you would protect until the end. What happened to them? That raw strength of yours hasn't changed at all. But when it comes to speed and technique, I'm far better than an idiot like you. We never had a proper one-on-one fight before, but now that you've got a woman weighing you down, isn't it obvious who's going to win? After you cut contact, I kept wondering where you had gone. Turns out you were hiding in a school, pretending to be a student. No wonder your movements are so rusty. Just look at how useless you are now. This kind of place was never where you belonged. Come back, Lee Sang. Come back to our side." Meanwhile, Seonhwa first glanced at the blood on her hand. Then she walked straight toward the fight. The next moment, she actually threw herself straight into Bae Min-jun's arms. Seeing that, Bae Min-jun was completely stunned. A honey trap? Don't tell me you got charmed by her like this too. The reason Seonhwa did this was because Bae Min-jun had just called her a burden. At that moment, Seonhwa rubbed the blood on her hand. Then she smeared the blood from her fingertips hard across Bae Min-jun's goggles. Bae Min-jun's vision instantly went dark. Then Seonhwa grabbed onto him again. Lee Sang seized the opening and punched him in the head. Lee Sang asked Seonhwa what kind of attack that was, because it was actually pretty interesting. Seonhwa told him that since she did not want to become his burden, she had to learn how to use her surroundings in a fight. Hearing that, Lee Sang grabbed Bae Min-jun by the collar. Then he and Seonhwa both told Bae Min-jun at the same time that the two of them were not dating. Meanwhile, Kim Tae-wook, whose finger had been cut off by Bae Min-jun, was enduring the pain. Lee Sang walked over and called out to the old man. He told him to hold onto his finger, because they could probably still reattach it. Hearing that, Kim Tae-wook widened his eyes in disbelief. Lee Sang nodded and told him he knew a place that could reattach severed limbs. At the same time, Lee Sang turned and saw Seonhwa walking deeper into the hallway. He quickly called out and asked where she was going by herself this time. If she wanted to find an undamaged phone, that would probably be difficult, because Bae Min-jun might look reckless, but he was actually frighteningly meticulous. Since he had gone after their order first, that meant he had definitely destroyed the phones of the people on his blacklist too. Lee Sang also warned her that Bae Min-jun played dirty, so the student council room was probably a mess. Seeing it would only mess with her head. Hearing that, Seonhwa suddenly stopped and asked why he was worried about her mental state. She told him to stop caring about things that had nothing to do with him. Lee Sang clenched his fist in frustration, silently cursing that he was only worried out of kindness. But this woman did not appreciate it at all. Then Seonhwa pointed at Bae Min-jun, lying by Lee Sang's feet. She asked whether he was really Lee Sang's friend. Hearing that, Lee Sang instantly got a headache. If he had to explain it, Bae Min-jun was more like a stalker to him. They had run into each other a few times at their old workplace, but whenever Bae Min-jun got the chance, he would challenge him to a fight and keep following him around. So Lee Sang simply cut contact with him. But after hearing that, Bae Min-jun deliberately emphasized that they were good friends. Lee Sang was furious. A friend had to be someone who was helpful in your life. That was what made someone a friend. You bastard. Do I need to beat you senseless, then knock you back to sleep? Bae Min-jun smirked. You picked the wrong person this time. That woman is extremely dangerous. And do you even know who she is? Yet you're following her around like this? That woman is the daughter of someone at the very top of Korea's power structure. Hearing that, Lee Sang was completely stunned. Who? Bae Min-jun called him an ignorant bastard and said that either way, Seonhwa was not someone Lee Sang could handle. He did not know how Lee Sang got involved in something like this, but he had a clue. They should go to Sungcheongdong and find a man named Jung Gwon. If they went there, the people there might point them to whoever killed Seonhwa's father. So as his friend, had he not just done him a huge favor? He should hurry up and admit it. But the moment Bae Min-jun said that, he hit Seonhwa right where it hurt. You shameless bastard. How dare you say my father's name? Tell me everything you know before I actually kill you. Hearing that, Bae Min-jun burst into laughter and said he would not tell her the rest. She should go discuss it with her boyfriend. The moment he said that, Seonhwa completely lost control of her emotions. But just as she was about to keep attacking Bae Min-jun, Lee Sang stopped her. Let me go. Are you seriously trying to defend him? Just because you think you're the same as him now? Lee Song told Xianhua it was the exact opposite. This bastard had received specialized training, so even if they beat him to death, he would not reveal a word. And even if she kept hitting him, she would never actually kill him. She would only wear out her own arms. So instead of wasting time here, they should think about what would be the most efficient move from here on. Hearing that, Sanhua did not say anything else. She simply bumped her shoulder hard against Lee Song's. Then she said she was exhausted and had had enough of these bastards. Meanwhile, over at Sing Street in Songchangdong, a woman with an elegant updo was looking at her phone. Without even turning her head, she gave an order to her men. "That girl looks useful, so bring her to me. Do not hurt her. As for the man, tear him apart and feed him to the dogs. Leave no traces, and make sure the job is done cleanly." Kim Tae-wook asked Lee Sang if he only needed to take these two people to the designated address. That place could really fix his hand, right? Standing by the road, Lee Sang reminded him that the place looked like an ordinary hospital from the outside. Once he got there, he just needed to give Lee Sang's name, and they would handle everything after that. Also, he should not try anything funny, because the collar around his neck had a tracker inside. Kim Tae-wook said he had already received the delivery fee in advance, so why would he try anything? Lee Sang did not need to worry. He could leave everything to him. After watching Kim Tae-wook drive away with the two people, Lee Sang caught the key Sanhua tossed to him. Sanhua told him that his motorcycle was completely wrecked, so he could ride that one for now. No way. Did he just get a new motorcycle? His boss was simply amazing, and the perks of this job were incredible. But Xianhua said it was the motorcycle Bae Min-jun had been riding earlier. When he grabbed her before, she had taken the chance to steal his key. Today's deliveries were finished, and Lee Sang had done a good job. Hearing that, Lee Sang looked completely disgusted. Bae Min-jun's taste in motorcycles was absolutely terrible. His bike was so gross that the moment Lee Sang got paid, he was buying a new one. That guy was clearly rich, yet he still rode this piece of junk. Sanhua said she was too tired to take Lee Sang home, so he should go back by himself. In any case, she was already planning to go to his place, so they might as well go together. Hearing that, Lee Sang froze on the spot. Why was she going to his place? Sanhua called him an idiot. He saw what kind of situation her place was in yesterday. Now that she was on the priority delivery list, she had to assume she was being watched around the clock. Besides, this was part of their contract. No matter what Lee Sang was doing, and no matter what happened, he had to stay by her side. She told him not to say he had already forgotten that. If he understood, then he should take her to his place right now. Lee Sang asked if she even understood what she was saying. A woman going to a man's home when he lived alone, did she know what that meant? Even if she had investigated every detail about him, could she be 100% sure nothing would happen? Lee Sang certainly did not think he could guarantee that, but Xianhua said she had already told him he could do whatever he wanted. If it would help with future deliveries, she would let him do anything he wanted. Hearing that, Lee Sang had no idea how to respond, so he could only stay silent. Then he told her she was not his type at all, especially because she was so difficult to deal with. He only had one pillow and one blanket at home, so she would have to figure out the rest herself. A moment later, Lee Sang brought Xianhua back to his place, and his investment was still down 99%. This made Lee Sang extremely irritated. That woman had really followed him here, and if this kept going, this crazy woman would drive him insane sooner or later. Was this what people called a mental breakdown? He had basically invited trouble right through his front door. Getting involved with her would definitely not end well. Once Lee Sang made enough money, he would leave this place without looking back, and he would not stay for even one extra second. But when Lee Sang looked at Xianhua beside him, all kinds of messy thoughts suddenly flashed through his mind. He figured he must have been overthinking because he was too hungry. The fried chicken he ordered would arrive in 5 minutes, so he just had to hold out a little longer. But just then, Xianhua suddenly leaned closer and said she had eaten fried chicken before, and that was the first time she ever had delivery fried chicken. If she could choose, she wanted to eat the flavor she liked, but since Lee Sang had already ordered, she had no complaints. Hearing that, Lee Sang's eyes widened in disbelief as he asked, "That was your first time eating delivery fried chicken?" Sanhua said she had eaten fried chicken dishes before, and the family chef was an amazing cook. Her father had never allowed her to eat delivery food before, so she ate homemade meals every day. To her, the most important thing was never the food itself. As long as she could eat with her father, she felt truly happy. But later, something happened that she would never forget. Her father told her he was too busy with work and could not make it home for dinner. Coincidentally, the housekeeper also had an emergency that day and could not make dinner for her. At the time, she saw delivery tteokbokki on TV, and it looked especially tempting. That happened exactly 2 years ago. It was the first time in her entire life that she ordered delivery by herself, and by some cruel twist of fate, that first delivery of her life was also the day her father was brutally murdered. The delivery rider who came that day had a build and outfit that looked very similar to Lee Sang's. That was why Xianhua did not believe all of this was just a coincidence.